deck for the Legacy format that uses the acceleration of Manabond or Exploration to get ahead of the opponent, as well as to combo out with Field of the Dead or Dark Depths. So, this hand looks pretty reasonable with green source, ramp effect. Would be a little bit nice if we had a mulch or a life from the loam. However, this seems like a fine keep to just dump a whole bunch of lands in play and then pass the turn. Our ideal situation is one where this Tabernacle or Caracas is just game ending. Ideally, if we're against elves, for example, this Tabernacle could lock them down. Or if we're against Reanimator, this Caracas could bounce him. Alright, opponent plays Island. And Ponder. Island Ponder doesn't really give any deck information other than they are playing a basic island. Could be Jeskai Control, Show and Tell. Taking a little peek to find out if they topped, bottomed. Looks like. And we hit the Field of the Dead. That's pretty sweet. It would have been nice to be able to put it in with 7 or more lands with different names, because it would trigger all of those. At this point, any land is good because we will start getting Field of the Dead zombies, and with the exception of a land that we already have in play, of course. And any mulch or life in the loam is a good draw because they will turbocharge our draws. So from this point, we're really just looking for any of our spells that aren't our spells that jump us ahead. Our ramp, like Exploration and Manabond, since we already have one of each, redundant copies aren't adding a lot of value at this moment. Alright, let's see what the opponent does. They finally took their turn. So, Killa SUV is a name I recognize from the Vintage format. However, I would have no idea what they're playing in Legacy. That's a Scalding Tarn. And a pass. And we hit the Life in the Loam. Sick. Alright, so this Life in the Loam is going to allow us to make our first zombie unless it gets Force of Negation, which is a real possibility since the opponent pondered and then didn't really do anything. Instead, the opponent just straight concedes. Can't beat the value of a Life from the Loam coupled with a Field of the Dead. Alright. Let's move to sideboarding. So in sideboarding, we really have no information for what the opponent is other than a blue deck. So I guess we can consider these Pyroblasts. Additionally, against blue decks, I don't really love crop rotation because it turns their Force of Wills into Stone Rains. And going down a land count's really unfortunate. Depending on the blue deck, like if they are a Teferi Narset deck, I'm going to want to have these Collector Oofs just so that they can pressure Planeswalkers. Especially because after game 1, it's very unlikely that our opponent will keep in creature removal. They have to keep in some number of Swords to Plowshares if they expect us to be on a Dark Depths combo, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are keeping in all of them. This is one of those hands that looks absolutely nuts until you realize there's no green source there. Alright, and this one's great. I'm going to gamble they don't have Force of Will and keep Manabond. If I thought that they did have Force, I could keep and instead plan on playing Manabond on turn 2 after Winding Way. But my sequencing here instead allows me to Manabond on 1, and then if Winding Way hits 4 different lands with different types, or 3 different if our draw gives us 1, then we're creating an absolutely ridiculous, a lethal amount of zombies nearly on turn 1. So let's see how we can do here. Or turn 2, rather, when we cast the Winding Way. So the opponent is resolving their ponder here. And woohoo, we hit one of the lands we needed. So let's go ahead and fetch up a land. Probably a basic to avoid wasteland. Indeed, I decided on a basic. And we passed our Force of Will check. That's what I like to see. Now, again, we're not going to trigger Manabond here, even though it technically could open us up to Prismatic Ending if they're playing white. I think that just having the option of Winding Way on 2 into triggering Field of the Dead is worth not discarding the Winding Way to put in the other lands. Opponent does have a Fled Strand. Let's see if they have the Prismatic Ending. Just an island. Island pass. Alright, so we hit yet another land. So now we only need 2 different types. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 2 different types off this Winding Way. Let's see what we get. See if the opponent has counter magic. They do. They have Force of Negation. Alright, so now we're left with some choices here. I think at this point we just put them in. Like, it doesn't actually get us any zombies. But this also allows me to draw with the Waterlogged Grove during my opponent's end step. And if I just hit another, like, Winding Way, it could absolutely change the texture of this game. See what the opponent's fetching for. See if they slam something like a Back to Basics. Narset is not one we care too much about. I have not drawn a card yet this turn, so I don't have to draw right away. See what the opponent finds off their Narset. Day's Undoing. Well, that could be bad, but not too worried about it. Looks like I decided that the number of lands in play was more important than necessarily drawing an additional card. Which, you know, I can see it both ways, to be honest. Definitely some choices given here. Choosing to Wasteland was certainly interesting. I definitely should have triggered Manabond if that was my plan. I cheated myself out on at least 2 zombies here because I could have used Thespian Stage to copy a Field of the Dead. Things that you see when watching the recording that you don't see necessarily when playing the deck. However, definitely cheated myself on zombies there. Not going to pay the 2 life, make my 2 zombies, and pass the turn. Opponent is likely going to Narset us with Day's Undoing if they decide to do that. Since we have no cards in hand, it's actually beneficial. It's not a draw 7 like it is for our opponent, but it is still a draw 1, which is pretty sweet. Okay, opponent's going to activate their Narset. See what they get. A Spell Pierce. Well, that would have been pretty good a million turns ago. Now it's not going to be too effective against our current board. Surgical Extraction on Mulch. Okay. I mean, that's a reasonable choice, since that is certainly one of the cards that can get us back into this game. But I don't really think we're out of this game, since every one of our land drops are producing a minimum of 1 zombie, potentially 2. So let's see here. After the surgical resolves, what we end up doing. Day's Undoing. Looks like we're going to Thespian Stage in response to copy something. The Field of the Dead. Makes sense, since any land now triggers Field twice. And Day's Undoing ends their turn. So we thank the opponent for letting us draw an Exploration on their turn. And then we have a Life from the Loam. I'm curious if we cast draw a card and then cast Life in the Loam, or cast Life in the Loam and then try to draw a card to dredge 3. Very possible this just gets countered. Opponent has 7 cards in hand. Looks like it did not get countered. Also, we won't be dredging this turn. Hindsight play is I definitely had a good play here with draw a card with Life in the Loam. Dredge back. Ghost Quarter myself for the second green source. Cast Life in the Loam on my lands, and then Manabond them into play. So I definitely should have a bunch more zombies into play here, and a couple more lands. Just, again, slightly better lines that we see in recording. Ooh, that is a Blood Moon. That is a Blood Moon, and I think I'm going to Ghost Quarter myself to go get a second basic. Which, interesting enough, if I had had like 8 zombies in play right now, that would be really, really good. Instead, I do not have access to those 8 zombies. I am going to draw a card. Not going to dredge. Or am I? I want to hit Beseiju, right? Because Beseiju just answers this Blood Moon. Interesting I didn't choose to dredge. Definitely should have dredged since Beseiju are out to that Blood Moon. It's quite possible they think we're an Urza's Saga deck since some versions of 8 Mulch do play that card. However, we are a 0 Urza's Saga deck. That being said, it is currently about to shut down our Field of the Deads. Pardon me. Whenever the opponent gives us our turn back, of course. Oh, they're there. Okay, so Blood Moon resolves. Double check, made sure I have no other effects. Yeah, because see, like, what we'd like to do is Life in the Loam, flip over on the dredge, Dark Depths Beseiju, and then Life in the Loam on both back. Play the Dark Depths with 0 counters on it due to the Blood Moon, and then Beseiju it to make a 20-20. It'll likely get Swords to Plowshared, which will, just create a 20 life point swing that the opponent doesn't care about and I don't really care about. But if the opponent is forced to keep Swords to Plowsharing our thing, because we have Life in the Loam every turn, then I think that puts us in a pretty good position. Alright, so the opponent has successfully Blood Mooned us. And it's our turn now. Fabulous. So I think we're going to probably knock off the Snarset. If not, then we're just going to start chunking out the opponent's life total. We do have 4 power in play, which is not nothing. It's not exact. It's a 4-turn clock, so that's not super amazing, but it's not the end of the world either. Still choosing not to dredge that Life in the Loam is interesting to me. I guess I'm hoping to draw more Collector Oofs. I do believe I'm making the correct call by choosing to attack my opponent here. They did have the Swords to Plowshares. And we're just going to drop 2 more lands into play here. Again, definitely should have dredged last turn. Saw way more cards that way, had way more lands in play. See what this is from the opponent. Prismatic Ending on a zombie. Okay, that's fine. Is now when I realize that I can start dredging? Oh, oops. Or is that not quite yet? Nope, apparently not quite yet. Although this Pyroblast is hot. Is real hot. So if the opponent goes for a Day's Undoing, this Pyroblast represents a draw 7. And it's not even stopped by Spell Pierce. Yeah, I'll probably sit on this for a turn or 2. Still should be dredging, though. Like, I should not have access to this Pyroblast, but, it's certainly a decision that past Alex made. There's today's Undoing. Here's the destroy target permanent if it's blue on the Narset. Tapping the fetch land. Thank you, Blood Moon. Opponent's casting a Force of Negation. Okay. So, we just draw one card. And it's the Dark Depths. Oh, yeah. And into the Boseiju. God, if that isn't the 2 draws that we really, really, really wanted. Okay, so play the Dark Depths, pass the turn. Don't pop the Boseiju, and then during their end step, we're going to make a 20-20. We know that they have Swords to Plowshares in their deck, and they could potentially have them as early as right now. What we'd like them to do is hopefully tap their white source down for like a Teferi. I don't know, something. Anything that taps them out of white would be ideal. We still get hit by Brazen Borrower. They are surgicling their own Brainstorm in order to shuffle because they cannot fetch due to Blood Moon. And then leaving it in the yard for Murktide. I like that's a good line, opponent. I mean, as far as if you need to see more cards. I wouldn't say it's a line I'd recommend. That's why you not probably why you put Surgical in your deck. But here we are. Oh, opponent is tapping out of white. They have resolved a Shark Typhoon. That is not the enchantment that we care about. Opponent has removed white from the equation. They cannot have Stifle, and they cannot force an activation from Boseiju. I believe that we have won this game. So as soon as they destroy Blood Moon, we will trigger. Whoop. Let's flip back over there. We will trigger our Dark Depths. Wonder if the opponent will concede before that happens. That Shark Typhoon probably would have gone the distance if it hadn't been for me drawing it that very turn. Although they did just go get a Tundra. Are we not out of this yet? What I should do is Wasteland them right now. They'll flow to white. Which they're going to. Yep. Let's see if we're about to gain 20 life. This game might not be over yet. This is wild. I thought this game was over. I thought we had him. But Boseiju is not just destroy target thing. It's destroy target thing and give them a land. A land that they use to hopefully turn the tide of this game. Now we got, oh my god, we drew another Dark Depths. That is absolutely insane. Alright, so why it's insane is just because it simply triggers Field of the Dead. We also have these 2 more fetch lands in play that represent a total of 6 sharks. So that's pretty hot. We can also melt off 2 counters per turn off Dark Depths, which will allow us to make another Merit Lodge as well. Ooh, 3 Fury. Not my favorite Teferi, that's for sure. Kills a zombie. Who said that Teferi was a pacifist? Into a Ponder. Now, of note, all of these sharks are unfortunately flying, so they can block our 20-20 basically forever. That's why some lists play Shajiri's Step, which would allow them to get right through these mono blue creatures. We are not playing Shajiri's Step, so that is not an option for us. However, I believe with the number of zombies that we are currently generating, we can contest these sharks fairly well. Especially with the opponent already being half their starting life total. And we're at, an EDH level life total currently. Alright, let's see if we remember to fetch during the end step to make a bunch of zombos to threaten the opponent with. And we did. Good job. Uh-oh. Anyone else see that there was only one fetch line to grab with that? I sure did. Uh-oh. Oh, there's 2. Haha, oopsies. My bad. Didn't see the Taiga too. Alright, so Field of the Dead is now going to copy the Dark Depths we have in play. And we're going to have our 20-20 start pressuring them too. I don't think that that was the correct play. I feel like the Field of the Dead are creating enough pressure, even though some of the tokens are larger than 2 power. Of course, I'm just rewarded by drawing the Life in the Loam anyways, but I definitely feel like I should have left it in play as a second Field of the Dead. And they have second Swords to Plowshares. Wow. And they don't even bother going after the 2020 because they realize they still have to win this game at some point. So they're probably just going to chump off on the 2020 and kill one of the zombies. Ah, 2 of the zombies. Alright, that's fine. Now I'm just confused. Alright, cool. Kill a couple of my zombies, take some damage. And I will pick up a bunch of my lands. Hopefully I'll remember to go to end step before putting them into play. Because if I forget Manabond, that would be slightly frustrating. This could also be countered, but that's perfectly fine. We'll just continue to do this every turn. In fact, actually, if it gets forced, since they make a 5/5 shark, it's kind of nice that we have a 20/20 in play. So for this one, we're just going to pass, and I guess we're going to be dredging this Life in the Loam next upkeep. Draw step? Definitely draw step. Okay, opponent has Mystic Sanctuary. What are you targeting with that, opponent? Surgical Extraction. Alright, well, if they have a way to draw in... Oh, they did during their upkeep. Alright, so they got Surgical on Loam. That's pretty good. It's going to make them another 1/1. This turned into a real game. This game felt over when I drew that Boseiju into that Dark Depths. So, this is amazing. Alright, opponent's got another spell. What do we got this time, opponent? Another Teferi. Alright, opponent now has multiple 3/3 sharks. Not ideal, not ideal. So much so that the opponent has now felt confident enough to start attacking us. And again, that 2020 did very little damage before it got bounced by Teferi. So, yeah, definitely something to think about as far as leaving 2 fields in play. I believe that 4 power and zombies a turn would have been significantly better. The good news is the opponent has given us quite a bit of life to work with. So instead of being at 13 right now, we're at 33. So instead of these sharks being, lethal or nearly lethal, they're just going to have to chunk in a little bit each turn while trying to play around just dying. We drew a wasteland. Alright. That's not super exciting other than it makes a zombie. The fact it makes a zombie is a non-zero amount of exciting. Obviously they have a swords here, otherwise they would not have made that attack. They've played very well this whole game. I see no reason for them to play differently now. This looks like a huge cycled shark. It is a prismatic ending for X equals like 9. That's a cool trick. So that should make like a huge shark. Alright, that's pretty cool. Since they could have done it on 0, but doing it in combat allows them to eat both of these. I don't know if this wasteland to take them off red actually does anything. If they only have the 1 volcanic, it stops us from losing to Blood Moon. But it could have just as easily been A little bit ridiculous there. Are we going to concede? I don't think we should concede yet. If it's not lethal, we're not conceding, right? Yeah, that's right. That's what I like to see Lucksack games. Opponent has a lot of power in play, but this game's not done yet. Swords on our last creature. Yep, we're down to 0 creatures on board. And now we die. Alright. Opponent ground us into the dirt that game. Is it possible that we actually don't want Pyroblast and we actually want like a Force of Vigor to answer that Blood Moon? Maybe these oofs are bad because they just kept in all of their removal, so they really won't pressure any planeswalkers. Yeah, I could believe that. So now we're just waiting on the opponent's sideboard and next game. Alright, let's see here. That's the one. Hand looks amazing. So we have the option of Manabond on 1, or to do it on 2 with Pyroblast backup. I'm curious to see which one I did. I don't remember any of these games that I'm watching. I am basically watching along with all y'all, all the same. Alright, let's see what I put back. I put back the Pyroblast, which means I'm Manabonding on 1. Interesting I chose to take the 2 damage there, when I could have just played Yavimaya. Alright, the opponent had the Force of Will. So that definitely would have rewarded me playing it on 2 instead of 1. Especially with that tapped Mystic Sanctuary. Pretty sure that the play is just Wasteland the tapped Mystic Sanctuary. Because you don't play a tapped Mystic Sanctuary if you have another land to play. Let's see what the opponent plays for land this turn. Mountain. Basic Mountain. Okay, this is an opponent that is going to be missing some land drops. Let's see if we can hit a Life in the Loam here. Life in the Loam and a couple Wastelands would be great. Additionally, I don't want to Ghost Quarter my opponent, even though it almost certainly takes them off red, because it puts them back on blue. Oh dear God. Alright, well here's 3 Field of the Dead, so if we end up drawing into a Manabond, this game's going to get wonky real fast. And opponent is passing with just a Mountain in play. That's not a Manabond, but that's pretty good. Let's cast Mulch. Wow. Wow. Just miss. Cast Mulch, mill 4. Wow. Did not anticipate that one. Alright, opponent, you gonna play something else? Nope. Just passing with your Mountain up. Alright. We now have double Pyroblast. That's interesting. I think we should just play a differently named land and pass the turn. We have a couple crop rotations in the deck that can make that into a 20/20. See where it goes with it. 4th land name for Field of the Dead. 5th one with Ghost Quarter. Still need 2 more. A Manabond at any point is still fine. Alright, that is a Surgical on Exploration. That is certainly an option that you can make, opponent. I'm sure they're doing that because they missed their land drop, and otherwise they'd be going to discard. Because that is not a play that you make, again, if you have options. So they took away what they thought was the best crop rotation. Sorry, not exploration. They took away crop rotation, which I guess I would have cast in response anyways. Let's start melting off some snow from this dark depths. We can currently melt off 1 counter per turn. So 10 turns from now, opponent will die. It's unlikely opponent will miss land drops for 10 turns, but there's no reason not to melt it off. Woo! And we hit the Manabond. A little bit awkward because we actually want to hold up double Pyroblast. I think we should still just cast the Manabond and pass the turn. Yep. So we're holding up Pyroblast and melt counter off Dark Depths, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it's correct to be this invested into Pyroblast, but I also don't know what else we're doing. Uh-oh, opponent hit the fetch land. Opponent hit the fetch land. I'm scared. I'm in danger. Opponent grabs white with their fetch land. Oh, the prismatic ending the Manabond. Wow, that is... I feel like the opponent really, really wanted to have access to blue there. So the fact that they went with white is kind of wild. This is such an easy game. Let's go ahead and put this here. Thespian stage into play. And pass with this Pyroblast backup. And everything's just going to be great. Opponent's not a Wasteland deck. So, yeah, they might have a Swords to Plowshares. So we're not out of this yet. But we're definitely going to be doing it. Let's make our 2020. Opponent knew that we were going to do it. Didn't even require us to prove it. So that's the end of game 1. Alright, so we're back for round 2 here. Let's see what we got. Manabond, Mulch, Thespian Stage, Dark Depths. Hell, I'd keep this on 4. We even have 3 green sources. Hell, the only way that can make this hand better is being on the play, so I'll take being on the draw and Snap keeping this. Shout out to my friends at Snap Keep Gaming. And we're against Painter. Alright. So the good news is Painter is not usually a Force of Will deck. There are blue Painter variants. Wow, we drew the Exploration. That's something that can make this hand a little better. A little force check into a Mana Bond, into probably pass the turn. Even if they have something like a Prismatic ending, which is pretty unlikely, we still have Exploration to make a 2020. Boom. Here's our 2020. See if the opponent can interact with it during their upkeep. I don't want to give them... I don't think they play Wasteland, but I see no way that they win if I just make it right now. So let's make a 2020 and pass the turn. I guess they could try and do something with Ensnaring Bridge, but this is basically the one turn they have to do it. So, what do you got, opponent? What do you have? Opponent says they got nothing. Alright, that's the first game. Alright, let's see what we got here. Of note, if I hadn't had Yavimaya and Dark Depths and Thespian Stage, I probably wouldn't have just dropped in on turn 1 there. Yeah. So let's see here. Based on what we saw, Painter is a pretty graveyard-reliant deck. And unfortunately for them, we really don't like 8 cast around these parts. So we're on 4 Collector Oof and a Force of Vigor. So our poor opponent is going to have to play through almost 10 cards in hate. So we're going to have to come up with some cuts. Crop rotation for a fast combo seems cool, but realistically, all of the cards we play, if we ever resolve a Collector Oof, it'll buy us so many turns. They don't really attack with big creatures or legendary creatures, so we can cut Maze of Iths and Karakas pretty easily. Looks like we decided to keep in Caracas. Of note, Caracas could have come out very easily there. Well, if this hand isn't a deal with the devil, you get Leyline, you get Manabond, and Exploration, and Winding Way, and Life from the Loam, but no green source. I would still be very tempted to keep this. Even if we miss on the green source in our first draw, we could still hit it in our second draw and be very good. This is a should mulligan, so I'm glad I did. And this keep is very, very good. We're just going to play a creature beatdown game. Sending back the bog is fine since we have the ley line. And yeah, the opponent's probably a little shocked to see ley line out of lands. But hey, here we are. Ley lining them. So this long pause is probably them checking their sideboard to confirm that their enchantment hate is still in the sideboard. And then deciding to play Urza's Saga on one. Little bit scary. Urza's Saga is certainly a way that they can out-muscle my collector oofs. Because even though their artifacts can't be activated, if they can just pop off a couple of 7/7s, a couple of 7/7s are going to tingle with my oofs pretty easily. So let's see what their follow-up land is. Ideally, it would be a Great Furnace, because then we can just oof them, and it actually shuts off a mana source. Alright, opponent's playing the Painter's Servant. So they probably have the Grindstone combo. Well, like, the Grindstone combo is in play right now. So if they have Force of Wills, they will use it to stop my Collector Oof, because they probably win next turn with any mana source. Oh, wow. That's a Boseiju. That's just another level of protection, isn't it? So, I mean, I would just play the oof here. But it looks like... Oh, no. There's a hot line here. Let them go get a Grindstone and spend their whole turn committing to a Grindstone. And we have an uncounterable answer. So even if they have a Force of Will, what we have right now beats that. So yeah, they're floating. They're going to go grab a Grindstone, probably. Since this trigger happens during main phase when they can still spend the mana. They did indeed grab Grindstone. So they have one floating, one land in play, and a Grindstone Painter in play. Everything is blue. Play a second mountain, and they try to Grindstone us out. This is where we're going to blow up the Painter. By hitting the Painter, we'll mill 2 cards, one of which could be Life from the Loam, and we will stop them from comboing us. Second card was Life from the Loam. Sick. And they have another Welder. That's fine. Plays out a Petal. That probably incentivizes me to want to oof. I'll probably still dredge, but then I'll probably play oof over, chose not to dredge. Chose to draw and got Dark Depths. Interesting. I definitely made some interesting play choices there. I probably would have dredged, especially with a Manabond in play. Huh. Like, you don't even have to cast it that turn. You can just dredge and still cast oof. Potentially dredge another Life from the Loam. Would have dredged the Dark Depths. Yeah, I think that was bad. Definitely should have dredged. Definitely. That being said, it's pretty okay that we have our opponent under lockdown. If they attack, we probably block, even though they could flame jab us. Yep, decided to dredge this time. Now we can cast Life in the Loam and cast Collector Oof. Easy as 1, 2, 3. This spell's so easy. So now what we're going to do is Beseiju every one of our opponent's permanents, or every one of our opponent's artifacts, just in case they do manage to answer these oofs. Which opponent drew? Ancient Tomb. That's pretty good. Honestly, I'd probably shift the Beseiju off to the Ancient Tomb. It's not a huge difference, but their life total is not really under attack, even though I have 2 2/2s in play. And 1 mana might be the difference. So let's see here. We're going to go ahead and fetch to reduce our odds of drawing in yet another land. Dredge 3. And let's cast this Life in the Loam. I think we should Beseiju them and then start ghost quartering away their mountains. They actually do not have that many mountains due to the fact that they try to play Great Furnace. Alright, so I did decide to go after the Grindstone. Let's go ahead and pick these right back up. I imagine that I'm just going to put them right back down with Field of the Dead. That's why I'm willing to attack now. Have my opponent dead in 2 turns. So I'm giving up on Beseiju, kind of. It's going into play, but I have access to it at any time thanks to Life in the Loam. So let's put a bunch of Zomboys in play. Mind you, we have 2 fetch lands as well, so this is actually 7 zombies in disguise. So this is a lethal amount of attackers on my side of the field. Let's see what the opponent decides to do. They cannot tap Ancient Tomb to answer one of the zombies, as that is still parity. It's the same as a zombie getting through. They did have the Ensnaring Bridge, which we're going to answer by just fetching, destroying our own Beseiju. Ooh, and they had the Grindstone. Destroying our own Beseiju and then picking it up with Life in the Loam. Opponent is just emptying the clip right now, thinking that they'll hide under Ensnaring Bridge, when that's just really not going to happen. So they're picking a card to pitch into exile here. Great Furnace seems great. And it's fetch, it's our turn. And we have at least 2 fetchables. Don't you love to see it? Unfortunately, since the opponent now has 2 creatures, this is no longer an attack for a lethal. Alright, take it back. As I said, they tapped the Ancient Tomb. So since they tapped the Ancient Tomb to provide a blocker for the zombie, they will not be able to win the game. Alright, so we dredged our 3. Now we're going to pop off our own Beseiju. We should have floated a green off of it first. I don't think that matters too much. We are going to go get the other forest that we didn't fetch up and make another Zomboy. And now we're going to pick up Beseiju and attack for lethal. And the opponent sees the writing on the wall and scoops it up. That's the end of the second match. Alright, guys. Welcome back for round 3. We're against Karate Dumb. And we definitely know Karate from I Am Actually Level 1 stream. They normally play, I think it's Bazaar. I could totally be wrong, but I think it's Bazaar in Vintage. So hopefully they're on a graveyard-based deck today in Legacy as well. Hand looks unkeepable. This one looks fine. We have a fast Dark Depths combo with this crop rotation. Looks like a keep to me. And we're on the play. So let's start off with Exploration, hold up Green Source, and Crop Rot. See if we need to, if they're actually reanimator, we can Bazooka Bog them. If they put, uh-oh, are they no land spy? Are they belching us? Are they burping all over our league? Uh-oh. No, that's so bad for us. Alright, well, we have a couple options here. We can crop rotation after the Blood Moon for a Thespian stage and hope to draw into a Boseiju. I think that's probably the best option, although it looks like I'm just going to go get a second green source here, which I don't think's actually needed because I already had one. So definitely feel like I punted this one already. I feel like the line that I discussed about grabbing the Dark Depths first, or after Blood Moon resolved, float green, let it resolve, sack trop is reasonable. Ooh, I see why I did this line. You know what? This line seems reasonable too. If they only have the City of Traders for their mana, I'm basically making a deal with them of, okay, you get to Blood Moon me, so I don't have mana, but I get to Wasteland you, so maybe you don't either. Since their deck basically starts at 3, they do have Chalice, but it basically starts at 3. So, before Blood Moon resolves, we're going to take away their City of Traders and hope it's their only mana source. If it is, we probably win the game. Because even though this, it'll take a while to answer this Blood Moon, we do have answers main board. And we just drew probably the best card in our deck for finding them. So let's go ahead and cast this Life in the Loam. Play another land and pass the turn. So, of note, Blast Zone entering with 0 counters. This is actually better than entering with 1 counter in this matchup, as on 0, it can destroy Chalice of the Void, Chrome Mox, and all the Goblin tokens created by the goblins that attack us. Especially looking good here, but we still have to be able to answer the Blood Moon first. They did have another mana source, and it was another City of Traders, so they do have Gobbo that will be attacking us this turn. If we can draw Boseiju right here, we can actually clean up the opponent's board pretty quickly. We can try and Life in the Loam into it, but that would require also hitting a green source. We did not wind up hitting it anyways. Probably we'll put a tap Bazooka Bog into play this turn, and then pass the turn. Untapped Bazooka Bog. I meant to say untapped. And the opponent has Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I don't like this story very much. I do not like the story the opponent is telling very much. I basically think that we need to draw Boseiju right now. It was not any of those cards, although Tabernacle is certainly interesting. It doesn't work under a Blood Moon. So, we can't Wasteland the opponent. We can't do anything besides drop this Life in the Loam back into our graveyard and then pass the turn back. If we're lucky, we will get another draw step, but realistically, the draw step would just be at Boseiju yet again. On the upside, if we do hit Boseiju, we will be able to, also we should be taking a natural draw at it, otherwise we have to hit Force plus Boseiju off the Life in the Loam, which is far less likely than just hitting the Boseiju. In case you missed it, opponent channeled the red Kamigawa land there to make 2 spirits to put us to 3. So we should just take a draw for Boseiju here instead of dredging, because if we dredge we have to hit Force plus Boseiju. I did decide to dredge anyways, and it didn't matter because we didn't hit. Alright, Karate won game 1. So sideboarding against mono red Stompy Moon. I'm pretty sure it's basically this one Force of Vigor, and that's it. I guess. Oh, no, no, no. We bring in these flame jabs because not only do they answer the goblin, they will also answer Magus of the Moon. So let's see if we can. Previous Alex had this one handled, that's for sure. I hope he gets it. It's probably my worst matchup. Mazoviths are obviously very dead. They don't even produce mana, except when they do. And when they do, I don't want them anymore. So, yeah. Just waiting on the opponent's sideboard decisions. Multiple Blood Moon deck is definitely going to be rough, but we'll see if we can come out on top. We'll definitely take the play. This is it. This is a really great hand. This is a shock myself. This is a I'm going to bolt myself on turn 1, put in a Manabond and an Exploration past the turn. But that seems fine. Mulch on 2. Ooh, I decided not to bolt myself. Because I can still mulch on 2 and Manabond. That seems reasonable. And then the Ghost Quarter up allows me to potentially strip them down if they go like Ancient Tomb Line. I still feel like I should have got my Manabond down that turn though. I see what past Alex was going for here, but I definitely feel like just getting that down now is better. Even though it costs you 2 life. And there's the Chalice on 1, so getting it down now is no longer an option. And there's no real point in Ghost Quartering a land that only produces 1 mana. Ripped the Force of Vigor. Well, that's just sweet. So one of these Mana Bonds is going to become Force of Vigor bait. Pay 2. Why I'm tapping both my green sources there is beyond me to hold up Ghost Quarter. But it's okay, never punished. Hit a green source off of it. Choosing not to cast Mana Bonds. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, I guess I'm building up for Otawara, but opponent's about to slam another 3-drop here. And it's Magus of the Moon. Oof. On the upside, I do have this Otawara. On the downside, no way to actually cast it. So let's jam this Winding Way and see what we find. We're going to declare land still. Alright. Did not put Flame Jab in the graveyard, unfortunately. Best case scenario definitely would have been Flame Jab to the graveyard plus Dark Depths to the hand. That would have given the opponent a 20-20 that they would have had to deal with, since we could have retraced Flame Jab twice. Alright, we can still retrace we can still do Flame Jab right now. Did not hit it again. Milling all these green spells. Brought in 2 Flame Jabs though, so hopefully we get it. I don't see much of a point in playing this Otawara, and it might be fine if we get out from underneath this Blood Moon. That if is becoming increasingly small as the opponent clocks us, but we're going to do what we can. Opponent has his second Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's not ideal. And swings in. Alright, this is basically our last draw step. Right now, Flame Jab, mill over Dark Depths, show it to me. Show me the win right now. Didn't get it. Alright. Since we're not actually dead yet, we're going to go ahead and pass the turn and see if we survive another turn. Play Field of the Dead, not play Field of the Dead. Sandbagging Field of the Dead so that I have 2 lands to discard to kill Magus. Seems good. Deck's more complex than people give it credit for, that's for sure. Opponent makes like 1,000,000 treasures and hits us down to 4 life. And casts a monkey. It's never a true game until you have a monkey enter the battlefield. And we missed. Alright, well, we dredged half our deck and didn't hit one of our 2 flame jabs, so that was a good game, Karate. See you for match 4. Alright, so we're back for round 4. And right now we are on the play against Kel. This hand looks absolutely bonkers considering we're probably playing the mirror. However, they actually joined just to make the event fire. So they said that they would be happy to concede to me, so I have a couple qualifier points. So even though this would have been a pretty epic game, the hand is certainly absolutely insane. I will appreciate the free points, and thank you so much, Kel. I owe you a treasure chest or something at some point. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.